Welcome to the latest installment of Mystery Unsolved. You already know who I am, and you already know why we're here. But what is tonight's case? Well, tonight's case, if you remember, if you watched last week, is going to be on the Texarkana Moonlight murders. How far are we going back? It's a cold case, you see, and it's a 40s cold case. Texarkana Moonlight murders. Without further adu, let's get started. The Texarkana Moonlight murders, a term coined by the contemporary press, was a series of four unsolved serial murders and related violent crimes committed in and around the Texarkana region of Arkansas and Texas in the late winter and spring of 1946. They were attributed to an alleged unidentified serial killer known as the Phantom of Texarkana, or simply the Phantom Killer, or the Phantom Slayer. Really? The dude gets 3 nicknames. Okay. This hypothetical perpetrator is credited with attacking 8 people, of whom 5 died in a 10-week period. Okay, so out of the 8 people that were attacked, 5 died. Worth noting. The 10-week period was between February 22nd and May 3rd of 1946. The weapons that were used were a .32 caliber pistol and a .22 rifle. Okay. I have to mention this. We're in the 40s here. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, then you know this is kind of where it all started when it comes to incompetent police officers. It started in the 40s. Then it expanded out, and for 4 straight weeks, 4 straight weeks, anytime I came across the police in one of these mysteries, they would always chalk it up to, oh, it was a suicide. Hopefully we don't get that here. But again, it's become a Mystery Unsolved tradition. I have to mention. Will we have incompetent police officers? And will they use the old suicide excuse? It is a serial killer here, so I'm hoping not. But we shall see. The attacks occurred at night and on weekends between February 22nd and May 3rd, targeting male-female pairs. This is interesting. Right off the bat, first sentence, I noticed 2 very distinct things. 3 things. Night, which isn't surprising. Most people kill serial killers anyway. They kill during the night. Weekends, that's not weird. And he targeted male-female pairs. So couples, essentially. The first 3 attacks were at lovers' lanes or quiet stretches of road on the Texas side. The 4th attack occurred at an isolated farmhouse in Arkansas. Good old lovers' lanes back in the 40s, That's usually where they happened. That's also where Zodiac Killer was seen to kill people too, years later. The murders were reported nationally and internationally by several publications and caused a state of panic in Texarkana throughout the summer. Residents armed themselves and at dusk locked themselves indoors while police patrolled streets and neighborhoods. Stores sold out of guns, ammunition, locks, and many other protective devices. Some youths attempted to bait and ambush the killer. Okay, we got a couple good things here. First off, it was reported nationally and internationally. So I guess even though it was like in Texas and Arkansas, it went worldwide. It caused a state of panic throughout the summer. But didn't it happen right up here it says it happened during the winter and spring. So I guess after that happened, okay. I'm trying to help us both out here. By summertime, people were just in a panic, a state of frenzy. store sold out of guns. You couldn't do that if you wanted to now at all. And then finally, some youths attempted to bait and ambush the killer. Really? Youths in the 40s tried to ambush and bait the killer. I could see people from like the 70s and up doing that. 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, now. But in the 40s? Wow, the balls on these people. Some ballsy people from the 40s. You'll never take me alive, see? Investigations were conducted at the city, county, state, and federal level. In the course of investigation, there have been shifting opinions by officials over whether the first and fourth attacks were committed by the same perpetrator. The prime suspect in the case was, uh, Ewell, Ewell Swinney? I think I'm saying that right. Okay. Name's not as bad as I thought. Ewell Swinney, a career petty criminal who was linked to the murders primarily by statements from his wife, plus additional circumstantial evidence. After Swinney's wife refused to testify against him, prosecutors decided against pursuing murder charges. Swinney was convicted on other charges and sentenced to a long term as a habitual car thief and forger. Two of the lead investigators believed him to be guilty of the murders. The book, The Phantom Killer: Unlocking the Mystery of the Texarkana Serial Killers, published in 2014, concludes that Swinney is the culprit. The events inspired many works, including the 1976 film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. I've heard of that. This film is the basis for much of the subsequent myth and folklore around the murder. Okay, so that's just pretty much the gist. Believe it or not, the gist of it. So we have all the attacks here. I'll go over the crimes. I might go over some brief investigations, and then, of course, a list of suspects. All right, let's take a look at the crimes, shall we? We know that. Investigators speculated that the attacks were the work of an unidentified serial killer. At around 11:45 p.m. on February 22nd, 1946, that was a Friday, Jimmy Hollis, age 25, and his girlfriend Mary Jean Laurie, age 19, parked on a secluded road known as Lover's Lane after having seen a movie together. The area was approximately 300, we don't really care what the square footage. Around 10 minutes later, a man wearing a white cloth mask which resembled a pillowcase with eye holes cut out appeared at Hollis's drive-side door and shone a flashlight in the window. Hollis told him he had the wrong person, to which the man responded, "I don't want to kill you, fellow, so do what I say." Okay, he was wearing a pillowcase with white. That sounds like something else, doesn't it? I won't. I'm just saying. Both Hollis and Larry were ordered out of the driver's side door, and the man ordered Hollis to take off his goddamn breeches. His pants? You want him to take it? All right. After he complied, the man struck him in the head twice with a pistol. Pistol whipped him. Larry later told Larry. That's the last name of the girl. Larry later told investigators that the noise was so loud she had initially thought Hollis had been shot, but it was his skull fracturing. Well, wasn't she watching it? Or she was so horrified she was looking away in terror. Thinking the assailant wanted to rob them, Larry showed him Hollis's wallets to prove he had no money, after which she was struck with a blunt object. Also, the butt end of the gun? Why would she be struck with a different object? The assailant ordered her to stand, and when she did, told her to run. Initially, she tried to flee toward a ditch, but the assailant ordered her to run up the road. Larry spotted an old car parked off the road but found it empty, and was again confronted by the attacker, who asked her why she was running. When she said that he had told her to do so, he called her a liar before knocking her down and sexually assaulting her with the barrel of his gun. That certainly turned. After the assault, Larry fled on foot, running a half a mile to a nearby house. She woke the residents of the house and phoned the police. They both gave conflicting reports on their attacker. Larry claimed that she could see under the mask and thought he was a light-skinned African American. I can assure you it was most likely not a light-skinned African American, for reasons to which I already mentioned. Oh wow. Hollis alternately claimed it was a tanned white man and around 30 years old, but he conceded he could not distinguish his features and he had been blinded by a flashlight. I'm gonna go with his just because, the obvious, the elephant in the room there. Richard Griffin, age 29, and his girlfriend of 6 weeks, Polly Ann Moore, age 17. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's back up a minute here. He's 29 and she's 17. I know 17's the age of consent, but this was the 40s. Take that for however you want to take it. But I can just imagine the parents of this girl being like, "Who are you, rascal? How old are you? You look older than me. Are you taking up my daughter?" Sorry, I know there's worse matters at hand here, but that's a bit striking, if you ask me. Um, Richard L. Griffin, age 29, and his girlfriend of 6 weeks, Polly Ann Moore, age 17, were found dead in Griffin's car on the morning of Sunday, March 24th, 1946, by a passing motorist. The motorist saw the car parked out at a lover's lane, southwest of US Highway 67 in Texas. A different lover's lane or the same one? Because if it's a different one, then it must be a different one because different location. So not only are there multiple lovers lanes in Texarkana, but he had a type. He's looking for couples, which we knew since I stated that in the beginning. But he's like, "Where's a good place for me to find some couples?" Oh, I know, Lovers Lane. There is evidence that suggests she was placed there after being killed on a blanket outside the car. Oh, sorry, I skipped. The motorists at first thought they were both asleep. Griffin was found between the front seats and his knees, with his head resting on his crossed hands and his pockets turned inside out. Moore was found sprawled face down in the back seat. A 32 caliber cartridge with the casing. A 32 cartridge casing was also found, possibly ejecting from a pistol wrapped in a blanket. No extant reports indicate that either Griffin or Moore was examined by a pathologist. Contemporaneous local rumor, wow. Contemporaneous local rumor said that Moore had been sexually assaulted, but modern reports refute this claim. I think that was put in there because of the fact that the first woman was sexually assaulted. So they tried to make the connection. Hence the reason that cops think that the first and the fourth were different, but this one's uh, at around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, April 14th. Paul Martin, age 17, picked up Betty Jo Booker I'm sorry, but Betty Joe is the most 40s name I have ever heard in my life. Age 15, from a musical performance at the VFW Club at, oh God, I cannot read tonight, holy crap, at West 4th and Oak Street. Martin's body was found at around 6:30 a.m. later that morning, laying on its left side by the northern edge of North. I can't read. See, most people would edit this stuff out, but I don't because I do it authentic. It's authentic, straight through. I apologize. Martin's body was found at around 6:30 a.m. later that morning, lying on its left side by the northern edge of North Park Road. Why does it say its left side? Isn't it his left side? Why does it refer to he as its? That's why I was thrown there. Blood was found on the other side of the road by a fence. He had been shot 4 times, through the nose, through the ribs from behind, and in the right hand through the back of the neck. I'm just trying to figure that out. Booker's body was found by a search party at 11:30 a.m., almost 2 miles from Martin's body. Her body was behind a tree, lying on its back, fully clothed. It was posed with the right hand in the pocket of the buttoned overcoat. Booker had been shot twice, once through the chest and once in the face. The weapon used was the same as the first double murder, a 32 automatic Colt pistol. He doesn't have an age type, I know that. I know that two of them were 17, but he killed one was 29, one was 15. Like basically, if you're a couple and he sees you out, boom. On Friday, May 3rd, sometime before 9 p.m., Virgil Starks, aged 37, and his wife, Katie, aged 36, were in their home, a farm off Highway 67, northeast of Texarkana. He was sitting in an armchair reading the newspaper when he was shot twice in the back of the head from a closed double window. Oh shit, imagine that. Imagine just being in your recliner at your home reading a paper and you get shot twice in the back of the head. Home sweet home, huh? Also, this is a married couple in their home. This isn't a lover's lane. This is on the side of the road. This is a home. This guy's like, he's up in his game. Hearing the sound of broken glass, Katie came from another room and saw Virgil stand up, then slump back into his chair. When she realized he was dead, she ran to the wall crank telephone. The wall crank telephone to call the police. For all you millennials and young people out there, back in the old days, like the 40s, uh, phones, cell phones were actually called telephones, and they were actually attached to your wall. And you actually had to pick up the receiver, and it usually had a cord, and then you had to dial. You have no idea what I'm saying, do you? You have no concept of understanding what I'm talking about. It's okay. Ask your parents or your grandparents, for that matter. She rang twice before being shot twice in the face from the same window. Why were you standing in front of the same window? Oh my God, really? She fell, but soon regained her footing and tried to get a pistol from another room, but was blinded by her own blood. Oh my. The blood was so like messed up in her face that she couldn't see. Ooh. She heard the killer at the back of the house and fled out the front door. She ran barefoot across the street to her sister and brother-in-law's house. Because no one was home, she ran to a neighbor, A.V. Prater's house, gasped that Virgil's dead, then collapsed. Prater shot a rifle into the air to summon another neighbor, Elmer Taylor, who Prater sent to collect his car. Taylor complied and, along with the Prater family, took Katie Starks to the hospital. Starks was questioned in the operating room. 4 days later, Davis talked with Starks again, and she discounted a circulating rumor that Virgil had heard a car outside their house several nights in a row and feared being killed. Was this the fourth one? That was the fifth one. That's it's very different from the other ones. The other ones all connect in the fact that they're couples, either at lovers' lanes or parked on the side of the road. They're young, but I remember in the beginning it's saying the first and the fourth, the first and fourth murder. I got to go back. The first and fourth attacks were committed by the same perpetrator. I would go as far to say if the first four and the fifth were the same perpetrator. Because, like I said, all the first four took place at lovers' lanes or the side of the road. The side of the road is still kind of could be considered a lover's lane in its own right. Only because if you consider the fifth murder, it took place in a person's home or residence, and it was a married couple. His type was couples at lovers' lanes, outside in the open, not shooting people in their own homes. Very strange. All right, suspects. It could literally be anybody, but let's see who they got. We got good old Yule Swinney. Let's find out a little bit more about Yule Swinney. Yule Swinney was a 29-year-old car thief and counterfeiter. He was arrested in July by Tackett, who was investigating car theft after realizing that on the night of the Griffin Moore murders, a car had been stolen in the area, and previously stolen car had been found abandoned. Tackett was able to locate the former car and arrested Swinney's wife Peggy when she came to retrieve it. Peggy confessed in great detail that Swinney was the Phantom Killer and had killed Booker and Martin. Her story changed in some detail across several interviews, and police believe she was withholding information due to fear of Swinney or incriminating herself. Police were able to verify independently. Wow. Police were able to independently verify some details of Peggy's confession, such as the location of a victim's possession, where she said you had discarded them. Sorry, talking over myself again. There was considerable circumstantial evidence against Swinney, but Peggy's confession was the most critical part of the case. However, Peggy recanted her confession, which considered unreliable witness was considered an unreliable witness. I'm putting words in that aren't even there, and could not be compelled to testify against her husband. Isn't that an amendment? You can't. I don't know. Swinney was never charged with murder and was instead tried and imprisoned as a habitual offender for car theft. Presley reported in his 2014 book that investigators in the Swinney case later said that the sentence was effectively a plea bargain, though the case files indicated no formal agreement. Swinney was apparently concerned about being sentenced to death for the murder, so agreed to no contest the habitual offenders charge, and in fact tried to plead guilty despite the charge requiring a jury trial. Well, that just sounds like they know who did it, and they locked them up, and it's end of case closed. How many more people do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 more people? Oh, Lord. All right, I'll try to make this brief. Good Lord. H.B. Duty Tennyson. Henry Booker Tennyson was an 18-year-old university freshman who died by suicide on November 4, 1948, leaving behind cryptic instructions which directed investigators to a suicide note in which Tennyson confessed to the Booker, Martin, and Starks murders. He had played trombone in the same high school band as Booker, but they were not friends. Investigators were unable to find any other evidence linking Tennyson to the murders. James Freeman, a friend of Tennyson, provided an alibi for the night of the Starks murders, stating they had been playing cards that evening when they heard the news of the attack. Okay, so wouldn't be a mystery unsolved case if we didn't have at least one suicide in there. At least this is an actual suicide. But why would you put in your suicide note that you killed three people that were a part of a murder? That's very strange. Like he knew them, but at the same time he wasn't friends with them. I can see why they don't think the first and the fourth were connected. Maybe it's because of this guy, but still, that's a strange one right there. Ralph Bauman, Ralph B. Bauman, a 21-year-old ex-Army Air Force machine gunner, claimed to have awoken from a fugue state of several weeks on the day of Stark's murder with his rifle missing. He said that he heard about a suspect matching his description and hitchhiked to Los Angeles, feeling like he was running from murder. On May 23rd, he told Los Angeles police that he thought he might be the Phantom. "I'm my own suspect," he said. Police arrested him, but Gonzalez, who's Gonzalez, stated that several parts of the man's story had little basis in fact. Bauman said that he'd been discharged from the AAF for being a psychoneurotic and had previously confessed to killing 3 people in Texarkana in a period of 3 days, which did not match the timeline of killing. All right, so Bauman's out. Poor guy has PTSD and is a psychoneurotic, so he's seeing, thinking, and hearing things that he never did. Saxophone peddler. Well, this should be interesting. Investigations hope that Booker's saxophone, which she had played on the night of her murder, which was missing, might lead them to a suspect. On April 27th, a suspicious man was arrested in Corpus Christi, Texas, for trying to sell a saxophone to a music store. He asked about selling the instrument to the store, but became evasive and fled from the store manager. Although no saxophone was found in his possession, the police found a bag of bloody clothing in his hotel room. After several days of questioning, the man was cleared as a suspect. Booker's saxophone was located on October 24th, 6 months after her murder, in underbrush near the place her body had been found. That's just some of these I could probably go without reading, but I don't know until I read them. So it ain't saxophone peddler, obviously, unless he's like, well, hey, if I sell you a saxophone, like maybe he just knew where the saxophone was. Maybe he found her body and it was like covered in blood and he cleaned it off. I don't know. I'm not giving the eye a reason. German prisoner of war. On May 8th, it was announced that an escaped German prisoner of war who was allegedly being hunted as a matter of routine was considered a suspect. He was described as a stocky 24-year-old weighing 187 pounds with brown hair and blue eyes. He had stolen a car in Mount Ida, Arkansas, and attempted to buy ammunition in several eastern Oklahoma towns. The police kept searching for the POW, but it was said that he had vanished into thin air. I don't think it was him. He had bigger issues, such as evading police. An unknown hitchhiker. I'm not even going to read them at this point because they're just getting ridiculous. A hitchhiker armed with a pistol carjacked and robbed a man, threatening to kill him, and stating he had 5 people in Texarkana naming Martin and Booker. The hitchhiker went on to say that he was not finished killing people. Okay. Atoka County suspect. A man assaulted a woman in her home, ranting that he might as well kill her because he had already killed 3 or 4 people. According to the man's story, he could not have been in Texarkana at the time of the stalk murder. Okay, it's not him. Sammy is a pseudonym given to a longtime Texarkana resident with a good reputation, whom the police were reluctant to name as a suspect. Well, if he's a stand-up citizen, then why are we considering him a suspect? Taxi driver. A taxi driver became a major suspect in the Booker Martin murders because his cab was seen in the vicinity of the crime scene that morning, but was soon cleared. They literally brought in every single person that they possibly could. If there was like a little boy throwing newspapers on near where they found the murders, he'd come in here. We have to question you. Local milkman, come here. Taxi driver, you come here. A guy walking to work, hey you, come here. And then there's another guy, Earl McSpadden. The body of Earl McSpadden was found on the Kansas City on the railway tracks of Texarkana near Ogden. The body's left arm and leg had been severed by a freight train a half hour earlier. The coroner's jury verdict stated death at the hands of persons unknown, in that he was dead before being placed on the railroad track. Because the murder is unsolved, locals have speculated that McSpadden, Jesus Christ, Justin. Because the murder is unsolved, locals have speculated that McSpadden was the Phantom Six victim. Oh, okay, he's a victim. A prominent rumor exists claiming that McSpadden was the Phantom and had committed suicide by jumping in front of a train. So at that point, they're just like throwing shit to the wall and hoping it sticks. All right. Honestly, this one, we're 30 minutes in. I didn't need to be 30 minutes in. You know who did it? You know who did it? It was Yul Sweeney. Most likely. The wife said he did it, but then she changed her story 6 different times. Then she was put on trial and she was like, I'm not. She was put on the stand and she's like, I'm not testifying against my husband. Yeah, so that was the Texarkana Moonlight murders. Out of the 5+ suspects, I imagine you're with me here. It must have been Yul Sweeney. The evidence was all there. They couldn't definitively place evidence, and some of the timelines don't add up, but it makes way more sense for him to have done it than any of the others. So that's where my suspicions lie, on Yul Sweeney as the Texarkana Moonlight murder. Or if you have different thoughts, you know the deal. You're not gonna message me. You're not gonna DM me. But shock me. Even go to my YouTube channel and leave a comment. It'll be a nice refresher. All right. I do hope you enjoyed this episode of Mystery Unsolved. Stay tuned next week for the next episode, which will be on the Bridgewater Triangle. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be a treat to deliver to you. Until next week, this has been Mystery Unsolved. Take care for now.